This is the 2.5, Conversations Connecting Innovators. Welcome to the podcast, to the very first episode actually. My name is Klaus. This time I'm going to talk to musician and music producer Hristijan Ivanovski from Macedonia, also known as Immex, about his music and the process to create his work. We are talking about his love for Mark Knopflers' music, the influence of Jedi Mind tricks and music producer Gramatik on his development as a musician. Immex is a self-taught guitar player that started with passion for music and with the help of his community, as he has a lot of friends in bands, a network he draws upon often. He likes hip-hop and rock and roll and is situated in between genres. He actually prefers this sometimes uncomfortable place between two chairs and accepts it as a source of inspiration. As an innovator, Immex is switching between classical guitar and a laptop as his favorite instruments to create his music. Today he is multi-instrumental, playing also drums, bass guitar, keyboards, and he even sings. His beats are used on major YouTube channels such as Unbox Therapy with more than 15 million fans. He's a master of the computer as a complex instrument, but he loves playing the guitar and keeps one around all the time. He again supports his friends' bands regularly in their shows. He has built his own style as a musician and a producer and believes he is still on a journey with more to come. Immex is using the digital platforms to his advantage to address a global audience from his hometown in Macedonia, Europe. In our conversation, Immex also talks about the right place and time to be creative and about the vision that starts his projects. His dream is to play with Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. Immex is also the creator of this show's theme song. This is the first episode. Starting the podcast with a conversation with the musician seemed appropriate. The bandwidth of the creative as well as the commercial process a musician has to cover is enormous and serves as a good example for innovators. You can find all the links in the show notes below. For more information, visit the2.5.net. Here's my conversation with Immex.
Well, I was quite unprepared for a pro, but I think we'll be okay for the next time. This is my first podcast and recording, actually. So,
okay, you said that you're not good with words, so you normally don't sing, but you make music.
Yeah, no, I actually sing, but the album is called "I'm Not Really Good with Words" because of I'm better with music than with words.
So actually music is some sort of like your words?
Yeah. I'm actually trying to say things through my beats and through my music.
I think that's an interesting start, since I myself, I don't play any instrument at all. I'm listening to music. I'm a consumer of music.
Yes.
So you're quite on the opposite end. You're producing music. What is your background? What made you start producing and making music?
Well, I started playing guitar like almost 10 years ago. My cousin was a drummer. He's older than me. So he bought me a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I really loved the guitar and I wanted to learn to play. And I'm a self-taught guitarist. So that's actually the first instrument I've learned. Then I started producing beats. I really liked hip hop and rock and roll. So I'm still in between. I can't pick one. So I started producing beats. I was inspired by Jedi Mind tricks. If you've heard of it's a hip hop group from United States. That was the inspiration mainly. And a few years ago, I started playing drums and bass guitar and a little bit of keyboards.
So you play the guitar, bass guitar, drums, keyboards.
Yeah.
And you're playing, let's put it that way, the computer. you're able to
Yeah.
to mix all that on, which is sort of a different instrument by itself.
Yes, and I sing as well.
Okay, so basically you're your own band.
Yeah, yeah. I'm being told that very often.
So do you actually do all the different instruments on your on your music yourself, or do you work together with others?
Most of my hip hop beats are sampled, but when I do other kind of music like classic music or I don't know, rock, I play the instruments mostly on the keyboard, or if I have guitars, I play the guitars, and that's my workflow basically.
Okay, because you could basically go into any direction you wanted to. You could do the electronic stuff. You could go into like instrumental stuff. You could do some classical music also.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a range of music that you are able to produce to do.
Yeah, I also fit in many bands, so they've been calling me to play in electronic bands, in rock and roll bands, in I don't know, punk bands, because of the variety of instruments I can play, and also because of the electronic knowledge.
So you're actually well connected with your colleagues. People come to you and ask you to participate in their bands, produce their music.
Yeah.
Wow. How come? How did that start for you? I mean, 10 years ago, that's about 2009. It started
Yeah.
somehow. What made you?
I was in 8th grade. Actually, I was very young, so I I don't know. I kind of liked producing, and I was back in the day. I was producing like 10 beats per day. Yeah, well, they were not as good as today's music, but okay, it was something. And then I started looking into recording and microphones and software engineering, like mixing and mastering. So I was recording some demos for me and my friends. I have a lot of friends who are in bands, so that's how I started. And I don't know, like, I guess that's it.
Yeah, it's normal if you start something that you're not at your very best. But actually, somehow inside yourself, you normally know how it could sound or how it should sound. Or how the result should be at some point of time? Did you have like an idea of what you sound like when you started, even you didn't have the abilities to bring it out into the world yet?
Well, at the beginning, I was actually trying to copy the producer of Jedi Mind tricks. He's called Stupe or Stoop. I don't know how they're saying his name. And I was actually trying to sound like him, but I guess after 3 or 4 years, my style has changed, and actually many people have told me that they recognize my beats, even if they don't read the name or the tag.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've built kind of my own style with the textured bass that I use, with the drum kits that I use, with the style of sampling that I do, I guess.
But so basically, you had something in mind that was sort of always playing with you in the background, and that sort of gave you a kick to start your own stuff also.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, because even now when I'm listening to music, if I hear something that could be a sample, I'm already hearing the drums and the bass that would fit with that sample. So I'm listening to hip hop beats in everything I hear.
That's incredible, because listening to, say, your hip hop beats, and I'm not really familiar with all that music and all that all the variety that is out there. I'm a consultant, right? So
Yeah.
I'm in a different scene normally, but when I listen to your stuff, I can hear so much complexity. There's so much stuff going on at the same time. Sometimes it's very quiet also, but most of the time there's just stuff going on all the time.
Well, I'm mostly do beats as I feel in the moment. So if I'm sad, the beat is kind of down tempo. It's sad. If I'm happy, the beat will be up tempo. It will be like groovy. I don't know. If I'm hyped up, the beat will be hyped up. So that's kind of what I do. I can't just if I'm not feeling like making a beat, then I cannot make a beat. I have to be in the mood to make music.
Okay. Well, that's kind of a good thing, isn't it? Since you, you, you have to have some sort of starting or initial point to start something new, and if you're feeling nothing at all, what there's nothing that you can transport in whatever you're doing.
Yes, yes. I need to have a drive to make a beat. If I don't have any kind of drive, I cannot force it. It will not sound good. It will not sound like me.
So that's something that you have discovered about yourself, that you have to have something that starts you as sort of the creative process.
Yes.
Is there anything I mean, you can't force a creative process, but is there anything that helps you to start this process?
Well, listening to music helps me a lot. I listen to jazz and blues music, so it can get me in the mood.
Okay. So you might listen to some upbeat jazz and still do something, say something sad or something completely different, since hip hop beats are far away from blues music.
Well, yes, but upbeat jazz don't mean that it can always set you in a good mood. Maybe there's some melody that can actually sound sad, even though the whole song is like groovy and happy. So basically, I don't know. It's just how I feel it, you know?
And sometimes the beats that you're working on, I don't understand words, if there was any words, since it's a different language, right? I speak German, I speak English, I speak some other languages. So, but sometimes there's something also maybe very, very strong in this music. Is this what kind of initial reactions or starters do you need to do something like that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Yes,
the question.
it was a difficult question, I think, because I just remembered. Now, maybe let's put it another way. For this podcast, I have to you as Immex. You are the creator of the music that I am using in the podcast. And it took me a long time, a really, really long time, to find music that I really liked, that I really cared for, that sort of had the right impression for an Innovators podcast. Something that was relaxed at the same time as it had a certain energy, and there was also a sense of suspense also in the music. So we'll play a bit of this music later on, and then I think it's quite obvious what I liked. It was like there was a pause in the music that really made me think of this piece as very, very special. But at the same time, I thought it was very complex, and my question is, how do you what is how can you create such a suspense type of thing? I'm copying the link to the music I've selected in our chat window, so you can play it and you can hear it, because I don't think there's any other way to do that. And I'm really impressed by such a suspense thing. It's sort of you're leaving the music in the air.
I know this bit. I saw the name and I remember what this is. So, well, to be honest, it mostly depends on the sample. But I'm always trying to make it not too, I don't want to just throw things on my beats just to sound rich. I wanted to kind of keep it simple, but the melody, I want the melody to tell something, It will be a short melody, but it would be something like, intense. It would be maybe dramatic, maybe happy, maybe playful. I wanted the melody to how to say this, to lead the beat, the instrumental.
It would be ahead of the beat.
Yes, I always do melody first, then I do the drums, and last I do bass and percussion and effects, but first I do the melody.
That sounds like a really special thing to do, because it's so easy to start with the beats. It's basically a machine that you sort of fine tune, but if you start with a melody, you have to do something extra. You have to do the keyboards or do, I don't know how you create the sounds, but that's more difficult, right, to start with.
Yeah. So, well, you know what's even harder? I don't know if you know what sampling is like using an old piece of jazz music.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's just slicing the piece into your own melody, like it has, I don't know, horns, pianos, guitar, I don't know what, but you kind of chop the melody and the sounds, and you scramble all those notes and instruments and create your own melody out of that piece.
Okay, sounds difficult.
Well, after 10 years of working, it really is not.
Sure.
But I guess for a beginner, it really is. You have to hit the right notes. You have to maintain the right pitch. You have to make all the instruments clear and hearable. So it really is.
So what you're actually doing is you have some sort of melody in mind, and you're creating that melody also by picking up bits and pieces and changing and working with these pieces from other pieces of music.
Yes, and also adding my own instruments on top of them.
We are talking about music, but this is also the way that we produce, for example, a new product or a new service as an innovator. So I like the parallel here.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's just how things work.
Maybe, right? But still, but for you, it's something that you get used to over time. You're working on these on your beats for 10 years. You're doing live music, I suppose, also. So you work with lots of different musicians. You pick up melodies and beats. That's something that if you listen to them, it says something to you, I suppose.
Well, yes, you could say that. Let's say I'm at a restaurant or at a nightclub and I hear songs and I hear the songs different than the other people, I guess, because I hear melodies that could sound like something else. I hear drums that could sound something else in some else music, like I could use or I could change to be better, or I, I constantly hear music in my mind like I'm remixing it.
Do you also do some, when you hear something interesting, do you like pick up your phone and do some recording of it right away? Or how do you keep note of that?
Well, I try to find it through Shazam or the Google app, who is, like detecting the song, and then I listen it at home. But I'm trying to remember the moment and the feeling I felt at the moment when I thought of the melody and what it could be.
What you're actually doing is also you transport the feeling of that, say, evening, of that dinner with friends in a special atmosphere. Listening, picking up some of these elements that you listened to and transform that into a new song and a new piece of music.
Well, you could say so, yeah.
But you wouldn't tell anybody, or maybe you would pick, for example, the title of the song, but else nobody would know what's behind, where these things came from.
Well, my closest friends, they know I produce music a lot. So I'm sometimes annoying by telling people, hey, look, this is a sample. Hey, here, this is a sample. This could go like this, They're just having their beers and I am like listening to the music very carefully. So yeah, they might know what's coming up with that piece of music that we're listening to right there and then.
Okay, so but you're like positively annoying, since they're always expecting something new right now from you.
Yes.
Well, I think that's really, really, nice is the wrong word, but for other words, for the lack of words, I kind of like that right now, because it shows that you have that passion for what you're doing, for what you're creating, and you do it in a way that your friends are sort of participating in that passion also right away, so they would understand right away in what position or in what place you are when you listen to a good beat and then tell them.
Well, yes, my friends are actually very supportive, and they sometimes even they send me songs that I could sample, or I could find inspiration from. Sometimes they are with me while I make beats. I guess they're being pretty supportive. Yeah.
Okay. Do they also participate sometimes with play some instruments or add a loop, say something that you sort of change and put it in the song?
Yeah. Well, yes. I guess so, because some of them are musicians also, so they maybe find the drum set not be fitting with something I do, so they would recommend me something else. And yes, I actually I've been doing music with a bunch of people a lots of times.
When you do this music, is it that you would you do that with your guitar, or would you be able to do something like that with using your computer, since it might be not as spontaneous to use the computer?
Well, I guess it depends on the situation. I have guitar laying all over wherever I go.
Great.
Like I have dozens of guitars, so that's it. I guess I could pull off a guitar
right away,
anywhere, anytime. Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, I understand. The guitar, like an acoustic guitar, you can pick up right away. It's kind of like a pencil that you use and a piece of paper to try
Yes.
a beat or some sort of tune. And the more advanced instruments, that would be like your laptop, you couldn't pick up right away and do something with.
Yes. Well, I mostly keep my laptop at home or at my studio. I don't have a real studio, but I have something going on. So basically, but anytime, anyway, me and my friends very often gather at my house or there in the studio. So, however, I'm always available for music.
So you're doing like these spontaneous jam sessions, basically.
Yes.
Would you always record these, or is it just sometimes just for fun?
No, I actually very rarely record my jam sessions, and sometimes I'm sad that I didn't, because sometimes a jam session turns out to be epic and you cannot recreate that kind of stuff, It just it flows for some time, for a period of like maybe half an hour. We are jamming super hot, and then when we try to record, we lose the sense and the feeling of the grooves that we had.
So you basically should have a set of microphones and a Zoom recorder with you all the time.
Basically, yes. Because I pick up a guitar literally everywhere I go and everywhere I see a guitar. I also play guitar on other people's live shows. Like, I go to the stage and I'm like, okay, can I play one song? And well, most musicians from my town know me, and sometimes even they invite me to play some songs on their show. So basically, I think it hasn't been a day that I haven't played at least one note on the guitar.
An acoustic guitar is, for me, who is not into music that much, is so far away from the electronic hip-hop beats. How do you make sure? I mean, it works well for you, obviously, but it's incredible to see that large distance between these two instruments.
Well, I like to consider myself as a musician, not just as a beat maker or as a guitarist, but a musician in, that can do wide styles of music. Like, I do classical music. I can make punk music, metal music, rock music, hip hop. I don't know. Electronic music. I've literally tried every genre that I could. So.
Okay, and which one do you prefer the most, or is it like depends on your mood on a certain day?
Well, I could say that hip hop is like my main genre. Then rock is the second genre, and everything else comes third. I can do dubstep. I can do I don't know, house music, psytrance music, all kinds of stuff, depending on the mood. Yeah,
that sounds really great. So you're into music. You started that a long time ago, basically at school. You have a lot of friends that support you, and you also support them when doing music. And with them together, you also get into that flow type of thing when you're jamming and trying something new. Also,
one of my friends is managing my Instagram and my Facebook page, and they like to be involved in the in the Immex thing.
So how did you come up with Immex? You have your normal name, your Christian name, or your birth name, and then you came up with Immex. How did that start? It's like a personal branding thing.
Well, this is funny because I don't remember how I got my artistic name. I'm always thinking that it came from some sort of a cartoon that I cannot remember. And from what I remember, it was a core of some crystal that was named Immex. So maybe if someone can tell me if they've watched the cartoon, they can message me. I don't know. I actually don't know what Immex means.
Okay, but it has a certain vibe to you. You like the sound of it. It looks good. It was available, I suppose.
Yes, yes, yes.
So how much extra time and effort did you put into establishing a sort of a brand around your music?
Well, to be honest, I started to put extra time into branding, into making myself a brand. Not longer than 1 year ago. I was just, 1 year ago, I was just doing music, and that's all it was to Immex. But I was like, there must be something more. People started reaching out to me. Unbox Therapy has used many of my instrumentals in their videos. So shout out to Unbox Therapy for, being here for me. Anyway, people started reaching out, and I was like, maybe I'm not just a small hometown producer. Maybe I could be something more. So I'm actually still trying to make a brand out of the Immex name and music.
As every innovator knows, this is kind of hard to start a new brand. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it takes good friends. But at the base is say talent or a very something that people like and that people care for. You just mentioned Unbox Therapy, which is a huge, let's put it that way, video channel with originating from Canada, but watched all over the world with several millions of subscribers. You are not in Canada, you are in Europe. So how did that come along? I mean, that's sort of a global corporation that you're having going on.
Yes, well, about 2.5 years ago, I think, Louis Hilsentegger, the CEO of Unbox Therapy, contacted me on my SoundCloud. He wanted to buy beats from me to use as a background music. And back in the days, I didn't even know who he was and what Unbox Therapy was, but he was buying a batch of beats from me. And I was like, one day, I was like, hey man, like you really bought at least 20 or 30 beats from me. Like, what do you do with them? I want to hear the product,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he sent me a link or something to the channel. I don't remember. So that's when I found out where my music was going and why the people were commenting Unbox Therapy on my beats.
So you weren't aware of the success of Unbox Therapy at the time?
No, I didn't even know them.
Basically, everybody knows you. Did that sort of change how you produce your music or how you produce the stuff and how you put it out?
Well, I wouldn't say so. I think I listened to my beats from, let's say, 4 to 5 years ago when I wasn't producing for Unbox Therapy, and I still do the same workflow I was doing then. The beats sound similar. I don't know, maybe just quality wise, I'm getting better, like better at mixing and mastering, post producing my music, but the workflow and the feeling are the same.
Okay, so even starting a song or a new beat, forgive me if I use the wrong words, like maybe it's not a song that you're doing. So you're basically still relying on your mood, on these impressions that you get from the outside to start something new.
Yeah.
And if you think that's good enough, you start producing something.
Yes. So it it doesn't matter if I'm doing a beat for a rapper, if I do a beat for a YouTube video or for a podcast. I just make beats, and people who like to buy them, buy them. So that's how it goes for me. I don't make specific beats for, people, because I guess it wouldn't sound like me. People would ask something that would fit them and not that would fit my style of working. So I rarely do those kinds of stuff. I mostly just make a beat, put it out on SoundCloud or YouTube, and if there's someone that likes it, they contact me and I can sell it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, I think it's kind of a scary thing to put out your work into the world, and because then you start to be confronted with feedback, with sort of criticism, with positive and negative things. How does that, I mean, the world is full of haters also. There's people that appreciate good work, and others, they just don't see good work. How do you the feedback, good and bad, real original feedback is good, and it can be critical also, but it also always helps to improve. Getting to know from your customer, let's put it that way, or from your fans is important. But how do you treat the stuff that is sort of less supportive?
Well, I mostly try to, make fun out of it, of the people who are being hateful. I mean, not making fun of the people, but of the comments they make on my pages. Mm-hmm. So I don't hold a grudge for anyone that doesn't like my music. It's okay. I don't like somebody else's music, and that's okay. But I guess most people are being supportive, because let's say that most of my recent fans are from Unbox Therapy, and basically they love the music that is being featured on Unbox Therapy so much that they try to find me. They look in the comment section, etc. So I guess most people that come to my page really like my music, because if they wouldn't be bothering to find out who I am and find the music that I make.
Since people are coming via Unbox Therapy, they sort of have an expectation of what to get from your music, what your music is all about.
But it's mainly people that like my music in the first place, because as I said, if they didn't, they wouldn't even come to my page. I would say I don't have many haters that come to my profile. I may have haters that don't bother to come or comment on my music. So basically, I don't know if I have haters. But yeah, they don't reach out to me.
Mm-hmm. So you actually you're picking up good vibes from your fans.
Yes.
Basically, people are listening to your music. They are connecting with you via SoundCloud, for example. But is there any other ways people connect to you, or what is your preferred way to connect to your fans, to your audience?
Well, SoundCloud is my main platform. I have most of my fans on SoundCloud, and basically I put most of my music out on SoundCloud. I don't have all my beats on YouTube or other platforms as I do on SoundCloud. So I'm dependent on SoundCloud.
Mm-hmm. SoundCloud is a German, I think a Berlin-based platform that allows musicians, artists, podcasters, also like me, to bring their music, their sounds to the world. It's easily embeddable. The beats are, or the songs are easily embeddable in other websites. You can comment, ask questions while listening to the music, and also you can comment at a very special section of a music if you prefer something a lot. I think that's a very nice feature also.
Yes, well, as I'm using SoundCloud for nearly 10 years now, I didn't have any kind of major problem. I see people hating on SoundCloud for, I don't know, copyrights or whatnot. I've never had a problem with SoundCloud about copyright infringement or anything. Oh, wait. But I don't know, SoundCloud just fits for me.
Okay.
You know, some people doesn't like it. They post music on ClickTrack or Bandcamp. SoundCloud works really fine for me.
Do you look at the analytics of SoundCloud? Is that something that is important for you to make decisions which track you're sort of pushing or further developing?
Well, not really, because I bought the Premier account not too long ago. It's like been a month or so. So I'm just what I'm doing now with SoundCloud Analytics. I can see which countries listen to me the most, and which beat they listen to the most. But I put the beats in my spotlight that I feel that they should be brought to attention.
So you're using these things to connect with your audience, and you're sort of looking at analytics also, but basically what you do as an innovator, and I'm calling you an innovator here, is you rely on moods, on your ideas of a special day or based on a special moment to produce your product, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite understood the question.
Yes, it wasn't. I was just trying to sort of put your situation and transform your situation to the situation, say, of a product manager or of a person that starts a new product where it's always important to look at your audience, look at your fans, at your customers, and get their reactions. Yeah. But actually, it's so much more important in many cases to not simply look at what your customers ask you to do, but what you think the customers would like if they knew what they would like to have.
Yeah. So okay. I think I understood now. Basically, I don't do music specifically for what customers want. I still do music that I feel like doing, and since people loved my work so far, I guess I'm basing my music on that, because I was always doing what I do, and I continue to do what I do because people loved what I do. I guess even the next songs that I'm releasing, they're going to like them since they're based on what I was doing before, just to put it that way.
Yeah, but I understand, since there's similarities, or it's sort of grounded into what you've done before. But it looks to me that you are always evolving, that you do new things, that you don't do the same thing twice.
Well, yes, I guess so. Many of my beats are different, but they have this Immex vibe that you can feel. Like, I don't know, people have been telling me that if they played a bit that they couldn't see my name on it, they could guess that it was my beat based on the production and the feeling. I am kind of evolving. I didn't like trap at the beginning, by the way. I started doing trap like not more than half year ago. I like the innovative process of doing trap music because I always play the trap beats on keyboards, and that's when I actually, if I'm feeling like playing keyboards, then I will do a trap beat. If I'm feeling like sampling, then I'm doing a old school hip hop beat. And I guess trap beats are kind of evolving for me, and also the electronic music is evolving, if you could put it that way. I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, so what you're also saying is it's not that you are just evolving, but there is you're in very close contact and you're paying attention to what other people are producing and making.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep a pace with the time, with the modern music, I guess. But I'm also doing the old school, the 90s vibe beats on the side. Actually, I do the 90s vibe as a main genre, but I do the modern music on the side,
which adds lots of more complexity, and I'm quite fascinated by that. If I look at that, I mean, you're an artist, you're a producer, you create music in different ways. You play the computer, you play the guitar, you play keyboards, and so on. In the beginning, you said that you do all these different instruments. In a way, I thought I considered the computer also as an instrument, since it creates a different style of music or a different type of music, or brings at least everything together in one piece. Do you consider like the producing time also as playing an instrument, or is it something completely different for you?
Well, it is different unless I'm using a keyboard, because when I sample beats, I don't use a keyboard. I use just the mouse and the computer. And if I'm using a keyboard, then you could say that I'm playing music, because I'm thinking of chord progressions, of melodies, of scales, etc. And when I'm sampling, I'm just listening to the music that's already there and trying to rearrange it to make it sound like more like me. And it's a different process.
It's interesting that for you there is so much difference between one instrument and the computer, because from my point of view, I thought it was just another, let's put it that way, another instrument with different sounds, different possibilities. But it's good to hear your point.
It's just it's two different things. I think it's two different things. Actually, when I make beats, I'm composing, and when I play music, I mostly play music that's already there, old rock songs or something. I don't know, whatever I feel like playing. So it's the difference is one is composing and the other is just playing and practicing.
Which and composing would be the instrumental part or the computer part?
The computer part, actually.
Okay.
The instrumental part is practicing for the composing.
So what you're also saying is it is really important to know your tools really well. Like your instruments, your computer. You need to know how it works, how the software works, so you can sort of stretch the things or go to the limits also.
Well, yes, because basically I sometimes make a beat in 15 minutes, all from scratch to the finish, where it's done. It can be posted on the internet, like 15 minutes, and that's all based on the DAW I'm using. I'm using FL Studio, and I've literally learned the DAW as the palm of my hand.
Okay.
If I have a vision of a bit of a melody that I've heard, then all I need to do is just open up the door, and I already know what's where and what should I do, and I just assemble the things in the door, and that's it. The beat is made in my head before I open the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you see that vision of a piece of music? How is it? Do you see like colors, or do you hear tones? Is it like, how do you, what is the first thing that you perceive of your vision?
Well, I hear a loop and I kind of beatbox to it in my mind.
Okay.
You know, like I remember lots of sounds of drums, you know, like they're in my mind, and I just I'm changing the drums and the melodies right then and there. And when I hear the final product, I just open up the DAW and put it as I hear it.
Okay, and since you know you're like, I think I need to explain that the DAW is like the DAW, which is your software that you're using to yes, okay. And since you know your tool so well, you simply know what to pick in terms of beats and other things, and where you loop stuff or where you sort of change things around easily.
Yes, exactly. When I open the DAW, I already know what kick to use. Where do my bass come from? Where do my melody come from? No, I don't search through things to find what kind of bass to use. I already have in mind what kind of bass to use and what kind of drums to use. You know, so that's, I'm saving a lot of time on that.
So you have a really straightforward process here, like straightforward creative process. You have something in your mind. You hear all these different bits and pieces. It becomes live inside your head. Let's put it that way. And once things are very clear to you, you start working on it. And then it's basically a very straightforward thing without lots of experimenting.
Well, yes, I already do the beat in my head, as I said.
Yes.
And then I just need the DAW to make an audio file out of it. I already have the audio file in my in my head.
Yes.
And the DAW is a kind of an instrument to let you know how the audio file sounds in my head.
Yes. So wouldn't it be great to have some sort of special helmet with electrodes and stuff that would simply pick up the sound from your head?
Yeah, I guess then I would be able to make beats in like 2 minutes.
Well, but you still have to do the experimenting in your head before. So once you have recorded everything, is that something that you sort of put out in the world right away, or do you wait like for another day or two until you publish it?
No, I'm publishing it right away. I export. I have an artwork that I use on my SoundCloud on all the songs, and that's it.
So no looking back. You have everything made up, right, ready-made in your head. You've recorded it. You bring it out into the world, and that's it. There's no experimenting and working on that recorded file.
Yes, basically, I'm pretty sure that it is what it is. It is the best it can get.
Where do you get that feeling that tells you that it is the best you can get here?
If I'm working on a beat for too long, I'm starting to lose, my feel for the beat. You know, if I'm listening to it, because when I'm making a beat, I have to listen to it every time I put something new in it. Like if I change the snare, I have to listen through many parts of the beat. And if I do that like 200 times in a day, then the beat will become boring to me, and I won't like it, even if it's good, you know. So basically, I like to do things faster, and I'm really rarely listening to my beats. I hear it as the final product when I export it. If there's any mistake, or I don't know, some problems during the export. And once I publish it, I listen to it very rarely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's like many actors say that about themselves, that they say they never really watch the movies they are in because they can't stand listening to or looking at themselves on the screen. Do you like to listen to yourself, or you just don't? You just want to go on and proceed to the next piece?
There are beats that I like to listen to, and there have been beats that I had in my phone, like on repeat 24/7, but that happens very rarely.
Okay, so what you basically do is you produce something, it's in your head, you bring it into the world via software, and then you go on to the next beat, you go on to the next idea.
Yes.
Which is based on the last product, on the last song, on the last piece, but it's still something different, something new, since it's created, for example, in a different mood that you're in on it.
Well, it's not really. I'm sorry for interrupting you,
Nope.
But it's not really based on my last beat. It's more like based on my last 2 or 3 years of working.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a listen on my SoundCloud, you will see that beats that are put in a narrow time. How do I say this?
It might be, you might have recorded something 2 weeks ago and it might be completely different.
Yeah, but also beats that are published fast, one after the other. Let's say in a period of like 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
they will sound very similar. All of them, not just the last two, but I would say so all of them, because my new music is based on the last, let's say, 20 beats, not just the last one.
Sometimes you probably have the ideas or for more than one piece, and so you sort of stretch it, this idea or that theme or that vision across several pieces to maybe to even tell a story.
Yes, well, mostly of my I do my albums like that, my instrumental albums. I'm releasing an instrumental album very soon. I have 9 out of 10 tracks finished, so I'm working on the 10th song, and the album will be on all platforms like SoundCloud, YouTube, I think Spotify, Bandcamp, Deezer, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can hear my first album, you will see that the theme is very similar. Well, for most of the tracks, and in the new album, it will be like the same feeling in all 10 tracks. It's just a different melody and vibe, but it will be like a chill hop beat album.
Okay, I've seen that you are working on a new album, and if you have 9 songs out of 10 already in the can, that shouldn't take too long until you publish it. Is it something that will be more acoustically, or will you rather use the computer?
I would say it's more organically, not acoustically.
Okay.
Because it's all done on the computer. I haven't played much on the last album, but I was trying to find organic samples and sounds to use, and most of the beats feel like nature, if I can put it that way.
Okay.
I'm using nature sounds and chill sounds. Like, I guess you could say, if you listen to it, you would feel like you're in a forest or by a river, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so it will your next album will it's like your next big project will be a new album that will be available on all the major outlets. Have you ever thought of bringing all your music, your stuff to places like iTunes? People can actually buy the music and listen to it, say, on their smartphones.
Oh, well, yes, the next album is going to be on all of them.
Okay,
Even on iTunes. I forgot to mention it. iTunes, how was it? Amazon Music, like literally almost every major platform.
it's incredible how these platforms allow us to, as creators, to be globally available without investing in the business.
Well, yes, but it's really hard to get through on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm famous on SoundCloud, it doesn't mean that I will be famous on Spotify or other platforms. Maybe my SoundCloud fans don't use Spotify or don't use Amazon Music or iTunes, so they will just continue to listen me on SoundCloud.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I don't know if the market will accept my new album. I could say my fans will, because I've released few singles and they accepted them really nice. They liked the songs, and I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, so you actually, I mean, the album is a way to package also your product, the product of your creativity, your music, and tell a story or allow you to communicate something that is important to you at this certain time. You can sell it via the major outlets, which is quite simple to do right now, but you still have to do lots of marketing around the project, about your new product, about your new album. You have still that tension: will it fly, or what will people say? And I think sometimes that's one of the most important things that holds you back to do something new. Do you think that? Does it hold you back also to do something new right now, or are you this insecurity about will it be some sort of success? Does that hold you back?
Well, I wouldn't say so, because I still can post my music on my main platforms, which are SoundCloud and YouTube. So I'm not like too worried about will the Spotify audience accept my music or not. I'm just, let's say, I'm interested in seeing how the people that listen to music only on Spotify will react to my music. Many of my fans have commented that my music will blow up on Spotify, but I don't know. The things that puts me back actually is my country, because I'm still Spotify isn't available in my country.
Okay.
So the album will be released by an record label from Serbia, and I guess I'll see from there for the future.
Mm-hmm.
If they accept my music, like if Spotify accepts my music, nice. I guess I will continue to put my other stuff on Spotify.
So does that mean that Spotify is not available in your country? So it's like geo-blocked or something?
Yes. If I want to listen music to Spotify, I have to use a VPN.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't, when I log in, it says that I'm not, I can't even listen to previews of songs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the down part. But actually, if I don't use VPN, I wouldn't be able to listen to my own beats that will be posted on Spotify. That's irony,
Yeah, and even your friends wouldn't be able to listen to your music and
Yes.
give you feedback and Yeah, that's kind of odd, but still the rest of the world is able to listen to it, or most of the rest of the
Yeah.
world. So I think this is an incredible thing, an incredible possibility for a creator to reach fans. So there's something great happening to you right now with a new album that you're working on. You're also working on different beats that you're bringing out once in a while. Also, you can't live without music, basically.
Yeah, yes, that's very true. Well, I'm already thinking about my next album, which I would like to involve the guitar a lot.
Okay.
Like it would still be kind of like jazzy type of instrumentals, but with lots of guitar. Maybe I'm uh, quite inspired by the old Gramatik songs. If you've listened to Gramatik.
No.
Anyway, he's a producer from Slovenia, I think, and he's doing many genres as well. And I'm producing. My next album will be kind of inspired by him.
I've seen that you also like Mark Knopfler.
Oh, I absolutely love Mark Knopfler. He's my favorite guitarist, and Dire Straits is one of my favorite bands. So maybe Mark Knopfler is more like favorite guitarist than Dire Straits is my favorite band. But anyway,
I really like Mark Knopfler also, and you're probably aware of the movie The Local Hero.
yeah.
And he made the soundtrack for this movie. And in summer, I traveled to Scotland and to visit the place where Local Hero was shot. And
Okay.
I always had the soundtrack in the back of my mind when we visited the place. And the best thing was, in Arbroath there is a fish and chip shop, and when we entered the shop, people were so nice and they were humming things, music and so on. And one of these people working in the shop preparing fish hummed music from the Local Hero soundtrack from Mark Knopfler. So that was really cool, and I could tell right away, and we got into a discussion, and it was a very simple way to get into contact via the music with this person. And he loved the place. He had never been to the place where Local Hero was shot, but he loved the music, and he's a big fan of Mark Knopfler also.
The power of music is absolutely beautiful. It's a language that everyone can understand,
I think you're onto something. But when you try to speak to somebody else from another country, you need to speak basically English because that's like a common language. But it's still limited in a way. But music isn't. Music works basically globally as a language.
Yes. Well, I guess some of my songs can inspire the feeling that I had when I made them in other people. Like I could tell other people what I feel without saying anything. You just listen to the music and you, I guess, feel pretty much the same as me. So music is like really, really beautiful thing. And I can't understand music. I can't understand people that don't listen to music. I've seen people that say that they don't listen to music. That's, I don't know, that's impossible for me.
So if you look into what you dream about professionally, what would be a professional dream that you wanted to achieve?
Well, I guess playing in a large venue is what every musician is working for. But
what would you
not
play?
just where.
What would you play?
What would I play? I guess I would probably play a solo guitar. I just love the sound of the acoustic guitar, and I don't know. I would probably compose something myself for some acoustic pieces.
And with whom would you play together with? Do you have like an ideal person?
Well,
Mark
of
Knopfler.
course, yeah, of course. If I could choose, that would be Knopfler. He has well, they're not really acoustic tunes, but it's rather acoustic sounding, like clean guitars. Maybe if you know the song my brain froze.
Sing it.
Boom Like That. Boom, boom like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Boom Like That. I want to do that kind of stuff, that kind of music, and I don't know. Mark is just the best out there doing it. I can tell you the story behind the song. The song is actually about the fast food man, Croc.
Ray Kroc.
If you heard,
yes,
yeah, the song is about Croc. So this man made such a song about a person who makes fast food.
Mm-hmm.
The music in the song is telling you much more than fast food. If you don't search for the lyrics or for the meaning of the song, you wouldn't have the idea that it's written about a fast food restaurant. It's just too beautiful to be a fast food piece of commercial, as to say it, which is not, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. So you one of your videos or one of your pieces is called "I'm Not Good with Words," but actually what you do is you communicate via melody. Melody is important for you. Melody speaks. Melody transports emotions and what you actually want to say.
Yes. Yeah, you could probably hear that the most in my composition, which is called Homeland.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic, it's an orchestral composition. And I don't know, that song is something that I was feeling very strongly, when I was making it. I was feeling like sad and enthusiastic in the same time, because my country was going through some problems back then. I'm not too much of a patriot, to be honest, but I was feeling that way back then. And I don't know, maybe that's the song that you can feel the most, I guess.
Okay, so it's something that deeply moved you, that deeply sort of changed. There was something outside of your outside forces that sort of changed the way your country was existing, or your country was. I mean, and I see very much. I don't understand what you're talking about right now, but I understand that a lot of things have happened in your country in the past. And I guess it's very, very difficult not to realize what has happened to people that lived there before you. So you're a young person, maybe you haven't realized all what happened, but through your fathers or your other people, you understand what was going on.
Yeah, well, I was driven by the patriotism that's in me for that piece. That's why it was called Homeland. Actually, the music, I didn't feel too much sad, or like too much, how to say, down, but I was just thinking about my country when I was making the music. Like, I was thinking about my country in a artistic way, as to how do I put melodies in this song that would represent how my country is at the moment, how I feel about my country at the moment, you know, like that's what it was for me. I guess few of my friends that have heard the piece said that it really is sort of like that. Maybe they felt it quite differently, all of them, but it brings out the feel that I felt when I was making the song.
Wow. I'm as I told you before, I'm not that much into music, but I'm fascinated of how you are able to transport your mood, ideas via music instead of words. And I'm quite intrigued how this works, and I'm really happy that we have this conversation right now.
Well, I like to think in melodies, and like in instruments. Like a violin can be a very sad instrument, and it can be a very happy instrument. So basically, for me, it's more sad than happy. I don't use violins in happy music. But so if I'm feeling sad, I'm trying to make a melody that would represent what I would say with words,
As much as a painter would do something like that and present whatever he or she wanted to say in a painting, in an image. I suspect that even in the very beginning, where you didn't know how to use your DAW that easily, you still had all the things in your head and wanted to get it out the same way as it is today.
Yes.
Okay, so
that's.
And you sort of you will evolve also, and a big dream would be play more acoustically in a big venue with something that you would compose of, especially for such a venue. Ideally,
yes. Well, I would like to hear my pieces played by orchestras or by bands, like even my hip hop things, because I try to make them as much organic as I can. I'm not using too much electronic sounds. Mostly it's pianos, it's guitars, it's violins, So I would love to hear some of my pieces played by an orchestra.
You dream big. You probably envision also how these pieces sound like in your head, played by an orchestra.
Well, yes, I try to imagine the way that would sound, but I still want to hear and feel, the sound in a big venue or a hall, especially on my homeland piece. I would like to hear it played by an actual orchestra, because yes, I composed it and played it on a keyboard on my DAW, but I think it will be a totally different feeling when the piano player puts his emotion into the composition, the violin player puts his emotion into the violins, and the whole orchestra putting their emotions in the playing, I guess it would sound a bit more authentic.
It's like a multiplication of emotions and energy, since you have not just one person doing the music, but you have, say, 20 or even more people doing music.
Yes, exactly. Like I would love to hear a violinist to try to play the piece that I composed exactly as I've imagined it, because maybe my DAW doesn't allow me to put that much feeling into an instrument. Like if I get my guitar to play, I probably can play dynamics and the feeling of my left and right hand, like the picking strength, like if I'm picking soft or if I'm picking strumming hard. So I would like to see how an orchestra would perform that piece.
Do you write the notes?
No, I actually I don't know musical theory.
Okay.
I literally know zero musical theory. I Most of the theory I know is based on the guitar, because I know the strings as they are their root notes, and the positions of the notes are basically like a piano. Let's take for an example the sixth string on the guitar. It's an E.
Mm-hmm.
So all the frets down to the 21st fret are semitones. If the open string is E, the first fret is F, the second fret is F sharp, the third fret is G, etc. So that helps me into producing, but I don't read notes as in a sheet.
It's impressive that you still are able to do such great stuff without knowing all these things or without having formally studied all these things. Do you think that's an advantage? Would you want to study that formal part? Would you want to pick up studying the formal?
Why I don't like studying musical theory is because I think that it might redefine me as a musician.
Okay.
But in a bad way. Like I would compose as a robot, because this way I don't know what is right or what is wrong, with my scales and with my notes, and I'm doing it by ear. So it's like an open thing. I can think on all sides, and if I knew music theory, then I would be like, oh, maybe this doesn't fit here, it's not like in that scale or in this scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I would maybe worsen the composition.
Does it allow you to break rules even better if you don't know about the rule?
Yes, I guess so, because if I knew music theory, I would stick to one scale, and this way I could change scales and melodies. So I actually didn't want to learn musical theory because of this. And some of my fellow friends, guitarists, have told me that maybe it's better to stay that way, because when you learn music theory, you're composing like this, you're just thinking what's wrong and what's right in theory.
It's a bit like jazz music. I think I'm not really into jazz music theory, but from what I remember is there was people that started playing music for, let's say, the joy of music, and starting to mix new things, new instruments, together in a completely new way without paying attention to the rules.
Well, yes, jazz music is really hard to learn and to play, because every participant in the music, like in a band, they're playing their own thing. You don't have rules. The beat, the drums doesn't have to go like that. There isn't a jazz. I mean, it's probably there is a jazz groove that you could say it's I don't know, it's universal,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, you don't hear a same groove into jazz songs.
Yeah.
It's always different, even if it's a ghost note on the snare, note on the cymbals, or you know.
It's a bit like what you said in the beginning when you start jamming with your friend. It's hard to reproduce whatever place you were just now again and again. It also shows that we're never disconnected from our surrounding. What happens around us moves us deeply or is actually affecting whatever we're doing, whatever we are producing, whatever we are creating. A lot, even on a scale that you do, you're rooted in your country, but you're reaching out into the world to fans, to supporters, to people to an audience that appreciates what you're doing. So,
Yes. Well, I guess this piece is something you didn't expect from a producer like me who's making hip hop, you know, because I guess that's what you've heard of me so far. But yeah.
I did hear Homeland before when I was researching you, and I was impressed by that range of your languages. Let's put it that way, right? It's
The musical, yeah.
your musical languages, of your musical capabilities, and of your musical interests also. And I kind of like that because in terms of somebody who is actually seriously creating something, these people, you usually have a very broad base, a very broad interest in and are good in different type of things and not just in one thing, in one area.
Yes, I guess that's true. I mean, I think musicians feel things differently than, you know, people who don't make music or don't listen to music. I think we can feel things a bit more deeply, as to say, because most of what we do is based on a feeling. If you're a construction worker, you don't, you know, you don't have to feel things to make a wall or facade or I don't know, a bench. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm trying to tell you what I mean by feeling things deeper, you know.
Since the product that you're creating is such a personal thing, the process to get to this product, let's put it that bluntly, as a product, is also a very personal thing. So every musician probably has their own way to get to their music. Or do you see that there are similarities between you and other musicians that you work?
I guess so. I've never thought of it that way, but it makes sense now that you've mentioned it. You know, I mean, everyone has their own approach to making music, but to be honest, most of the musicians base their music on, except for the commercial music, it's based on money.
But ideally, everybody has to live, right? So
Yeah.
you find somebody that resonates with the feelings that you create in music and gives you money.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, money is good and all, but I think it has to have a point. It has to have a feeling, you know.
Okay.
That's what music is all about for me, at least.
Since you're driven so much by music, I suppose there is nothing other that sort of moves you in such a deep way. But is there anything else that that you are also passionate about?
I guess not as much as music.
Well, I guess that's okay. Some people don't have a single one thing that they're passionate about, and if you're on such a level of passion for your music as you are, that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Well, Hristijan Imex, I'm very thankful for you to have taken your time to talk with me about whatever drives you, whatever moves you, what brings you to create your music. And I think for me that was was an insight into a different world. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
After our conversation, we listened to beats of Immex and he gave me more insight into his thinking. What I think is fascinating that in his mind he is creating beats in everything he hears. He's a musician that tries to do his thing in a very challenging environment. Immex is using the digital possibilities the internet offers to create, distribute and market his work. I'm thankful he took the time for the conversation. As a side note, this is the first episode of my podcast. After years of learning and preparing, the show got off the ground at last. My name is Klaus Reichert. I'm an innovation coach and located in the southwest of Germany in the state of Baden-Württemberg. The 2.5 Innovator podcast is an idea more than 3 years in the making. This first conversation is the beginning, and I have a long list of innovators I'd like to have a conversation with. This is the 2.5, a podcast that connects innovators through conversations. The development of the 2.5 was supported by many people. To thank a few, here's to Immex for the great music and the time he took for the conversation. Alex Di Palma from the Podcasting Fellowship. The other aspiring podcasters of the Fellowship. David Nebinski. Colin Gray from the podcast host, Andreas Ura from the University of Konstanz, and my wife Barbara. And thank you for listening. My name is Klaus. This is the 2.5 Conversations Connecting Innovators.